Welcome back to Bloom Insights. In December 1952, London was about to experience a disaster unlike any other. A catastrophe so silent and insidious, it would claim thousands of lives before anyone truly understood what was happening. Imagine waking up one morning, opening your window, and finding the world outside shrouded in a yellow-gray haze so thick you could barely see the street below. The air felt heavy, acrid, and every breath burned your lungs. Over the course of just 5 days, an invisible killer swept through the city streets, transforming daily life and leaving an indelible scar on the collective memory of a nation. This is the story of the Great Smog of London, 1952, a tragedy born from the very air people breathed. To understand how such a calamity unfolded, we must first look at the context of post-war London. In the early 1950s, the city was still recovering from the ravages of World War II. Coal was the lifeblood of British industry and everyday life. It powered homes, factories, and public transport. But this reliance came at a steep cost. Thick, sooty smoke poured from millions of chimneys, mixing with the city's natural fog to create what Londoners had long called pea soupers. These fogs were notorious, but nothing could prepare them for what would happen in December 1952. On December 5th, a cold snap gripped the city. Temperatures plummeted, and residents stoked their coal fires with low-grade, sulfur-rich coal. That very evening, a phenomenon known as a temperature inversion settled over London. A layer of warm air trapped the colder air at ground level, preventing smoke and industrial emissions from dispersing into the atmosphere. Instead, pollutants accumulated, enveloping London in a thick, toxic blanket. Within hours, visibility dropped to just a few feet. Streetlights and car headlights barely penetrated the gloom. Public transport ground to a halt. Ambulances could not navigate the streets. Even the River Thames vanished from sight. The iconic landmarks, the Houses of Parliament, Big Ben, St. Paul's Cathedral, disappeared into the soupy abyss. The city was shrouded in darkness, even at midday, but it was not just an inconvenience. People soon realized this was no ordinary fog. The air stung the eyes and throat. Many described it as breathing in acid. Hospitals quickly filled with patients suffering from respiratory distress. The young, the elderly, and those with pre-existing conditions were especially vulnerable. In just 5 days, an estimated 4,000 people died, choked by the very air they breathed. Later studies would put the death toll as high as 12,000 once the delayed effects of the smog were accounted for. The numbers are staggering. According to a report by the British Medical Journal, hospital admissions for respiratory illnesses soared by 300%. Mortality rates for bronchitis and pneumonia more than doubled. Even livestock were not spared. Cows at the Smithfield livestock market suffocated. The city's infrastructure was paralyzed. Buses and trains were canceled, flights were grounded, and even indoor events were disrupted as the smog seeped into theaters, schools, and shops. What made the Great Smog so deadly was its composition. Scientists later analyzed samples and found exceptionally high concentrations of sulfur dioxide, smoke particles, and hydrochloric acid. At its peak, the smog contained up to 56 times the normal level of airborne pollutants. The thick, oily particles penetrated deep into the lungs, triggering severe inflammation and, for many, fatal attacks of asthma or heart failure. For Londoners, the psychological impact was profound. The city was gripped by fear and confusion. Newspaper headlines screamed of the mounting death toll. Parents kept children home from school, terrified to let them outside. Grieving families demanded answers. How could something as ordinary as fog become so lethal? The tragedy of the Great Smog forced the government and the public to confront the deadly consequences of unchecked air pollution. The event sparked a wave of scientific research and public debate. It became clear that the smog was not a natural disaster, but a man-made one, an outcome of urbanization, industrialization, and political inaction. In the aftermath, Parliament launched an inquiry. The findings were damning. The lax regulations on fuel quality and industrial emissions had created a perfect storm. The government could no longer ignore the deadly link between air pollution and public health. In 1956, just 4 years later, the Clean Air Act was passed, marking a turning point in environmental policy. The act restricted the burning of smoky fuels in urban areas, introduced smokeless zones, and encouraged a shift towards cleaner energy sources. Yet the lessons of the Great Smog extend far beyond mid-century London. Today, air pollution remains a global threat, linked to millions of premature deaths each year. The story of 1952 is a stark reminder of how invisible dangers can lurk in the very air we breathe, and how collective action and scientific understanding are crucial to safeguarding public health. As we look back on the Great Smog, it is impossible not to feel a sense of awe and sorrow. The images of a city brought to its knees by its own progress, the stories of families torn apart by a silent killer, and the resilience of a population determined to rebuild and reform. These are the enduring legacies of those 5 fateful days. But perhaps the most haunting question is, could it happen again? As cities around the world continue to grapple with pollution and climate change, the specter of the Great Smog looms large, a warning from history and a call to vigilance in the present. The Great Smog of London was more than an environmental disaster. It was a pivotal moment in the relationship between people and their environment. It showed the power of nature, the price of neglect, and the hope that comes from learning and reform. It remains, to this day, a testament to the invisible forces that can shape and threaten our lives. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to follow the next videos.